Creating a strong implementation plan, setting realistic implementation targets. Most evidence-based programs establish an upper limit for the number of participants that can be served in one group or by one facilitator. But often these numbers are higher than what is typically seen in the real world. Additionally, it is easy to over or underestimate the ability to provide repeat cycles of a program. This video will provide guidance for setting realistic targets for the number of youth, parents, or families that can be served in a year by several different types of programs. Most evidence-based programs publish guidelines for the number of people who can be served in one group or classroom. Sometimes these estimates are not accurate. They may have been based on research trials where conditions for recruitment or participation were enhanced by extra incentives or intensive help from research teams. So, while it is important to start with the developer guidelines when setting targets, it is also important to exercise caution to avoid overestimating how many people you can serve. Considering things like setting, recruitment, will help you set more realistic targets. The maximum number of youth that can be served by a school-based program is typically limited by the class size for the age range or grade being targeted, and the number of classrooms or schools that will receive the program. An accurate estimate can sometimes be derived from the previous year's enrollment levels for a particular school or grade. It is wise to round down when setting school-based targets and to take into account the importance of ensuring school buy-in at both the teacher, principal, and school superintendent levels. Also relevant in setting these targets is the length of the program. For instance, the 12 sessions of Project Towards No Drug Abuse can be delivered in 4 weeks, and hence it's possible to deliver this program more than once per academic year. Family group models like Strengthening Families 10 to 14 or Strong African American Families require significant ramp-up time for recruiting participants. Hence, they are typically only implemented twice per year, once in the fall and once in the spring in any given community. An exception would be a larger organization serving multiple communities, which may be able to run more than 2 sessions per year. In the Epicenter's experience, the average number of families per group for these kinds of programs has been between 7 to 10 families per group. And targets should be set with this limit in mind. Similar to family groups, parent groups also typically involve significant ramp-up time for recruitment and securing referrals. A key factor to consider in setting targets for these programs is the strength of the relationship with referral sources and the nature of the population being served. For instance, are parents court-ordered to attend? Or does the program serve parents of children with a certain diagnosis? Or is the plan to recruit more universally from all parents in a given school or neighborhood community? Programs that rely on volunteer mentors to deliver the program should consider their ability to recruit volunteers rather than utilizing waitlist numbers or community demographics when setting their targets. This is particularly relevant for programs like Big Brothers Big Sisters, but could apply to other models that rely on volunteer staff. Adolescent-focused programming delivered in school classrooms or residential settings is often likely to reach the intended population. These targets can be set based on class size or on the average census for a residential program. Programs offered to these youth, however, on a voluntary basis in after-school or community settings are less likely to achieve targets. Expectations for numbers served for these kinds of programs should be kept lower. Intervention models like MST and FFT set targets based mainly on model guidelines and clinical capacity. And programs like these often require caseloads of a certain size and may require that clinicians not provide other kinds of services. So being sure to match capacity to need is the key for these intervention models. And data from the Community Needs Assessment can help you to set realistic targets for these programs. to recap, model requirements, implementation setting, ramp-up time, target population, and length of program should all be considered when setting goals for the number of people an evidence-based program can serve in 1 year.